Hello, Starlets. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Morrigan. We're going to be talking about the progression of my journey as a priestess of the Morrigan, walking through worlds with her, how that has changed. And we're going to be doing it by focusing on my latest offering, which I'm so excited and so relieved that it's here and to share with you, which is the Crow Speak Anthology for the Morrigan, which is the beautiful book that you'll see before you and is the result of a very long amount of time, many years of working with her, and is a collection of heart-spoken, sacred oaths, poetry, ritual, connection, worship, and offering in the name of the Great Queen. The progression of my path with the Morrigan is a constant journey of reflection. It's never easy. I don't think it gets easier. I think we get more adept at recognizing the patterns of our own behavior. I think we get more adept at becoming more authentic with who we're meant to be, stronger within our sense of self and sovereignty. We learn very, very difficult lessons of personal boundaries, and we get lots of practice with it under the name of the Great Queen. It's been interesting to me that she has been quite active of late. There has been much talk around who she is and what she wants. I don't personally think it is my place to try and tell you what the Morrigan wants, full stop. I might have an idea of what she wants of me, but even that is open to interpretation and the change on a whim. As we walk and priestess through our own lives, it can be an uncertain road that we find ourselves upon. And we can discover things about ourselves that we never really knew, or perhaps we knew but we were avoiding, or the places in which we've grown. And there are perhaps a number of things I've seen said quite a lot lately. So there is an influx of information from different social media platforms, and some social media platforms, whilst they have their uses, I don't think allow for a in-depth, nuanced conversation, particularly with the trend of making videos very, very short, quick dopamine hits. And some of the stuff that gets said about the Morrigan boils my blood. And I have such a difficult time articulating it, because on the one hand, I don't ever want to be one of those people who's telling you how you can and cannot worship the Morrigan, or what she is or she is not. There are certain things which I absolutely believe that she is not within a certainty. I have seen an influx of patriarchal BS lately, which has her as a demoness, a sexual driven demoness that would enjoy certain acts in her honor. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a kind of, it felt like when I came across that, like a determination of the masculine to try and diminish the power of this goddess. Not that she ever could be, but that information made my blood boil. It made me feel very icky, and it was, as a survivor of SA myself, it was very triggering. I've heard things like the Morrigan prefers those who are water signs in astrology. I can honestly say I don't think she particularly cares what your astrological sign may be. It's more about your oath, it's more about your honour, it's more about your work, it's more about the journey to the self, it's more about learning to be sovereign and listening and co-creating life and work in her name and her honour. So there are interesting things that I have come across in recent times, and every so often I have spoken out up against it. I tend to prefer to create, though, instead. Because I tend to feel that, and I've said this before, if the world is being really ugly, go create something beautiful. And I know that a lot of the pagan circles can get into this kind of slagging match about what's allowed in regards to, I mean, everything, but in this case, the Morrigan and her worship. And I'm tired of it. I've seen it for over a decade and in online circles, and it left me not defeated, but kind of insular and kind of soul searching for a really long time. Questioning her for a really long time, like screaming at the altar is still a thing we do, but getting angry at the altar is still something that we do. And to be honest, I don't think she minds that one bit. Proof that we're still alive, hey? So the Crow Speak Anthology is my take, it's my journey, it's my path, it's my words, it's something that I created to speak to you guys from a place of soul and sacredness. It's not an attempt to teach you mythology or lore. Those books exist already. It's soul weaving. So without further ado, we're going to have a look in the book. What's Morrigan got to tell us today? Let's do some Stitchomancy. Stitchomancy, if you didn't know, is the art of opening a book, reading what you get, and taking divinational meaning for it. I've sat her up on my laptop frame. My laptop, you can sit on this for easiness of typing, and to be honest, this is working quite nicely for the book. Right, Stitchomancy, please. Without knocking. Oh! Oh, it amuses me. It amuses me. If we just... I can illuminate my lessons as spirits and bones which have served me well and might serve you too in their consideration. That's exactly what we're doing. I will not bow to the oppression that surrounds, nor validate the self-proclamation of victimhood nor superiority. Their words do not touch me nor define me, only myself can do that. And though in the walking I might embody the wild waves churning up scum, the world needs the cleansing, and through the shadows rise to the surface, heeding the call of the wild darkness of the Shadow Priestess. They are not crashing down over me. I will not drown. So the image, the artwork here that you saw a second ago is not really supposed to be her. It's supposed to be an interpretation of what a priestess of hers might look like, because we're actually in the priestess section. So within this collective work, I'm going to just show you some bits and pieces now. Within the anthology itself, we have different sections. We have a table of contents. Oh yes, there's quite a bit in here. So we're calling in the Morrigan. So the first section is the warrior. If you've been with me any length of time, you possibly know about the Songs of Shades collection. The Songs of Shades was devotion to a path of spirituality. Something the Morrigan has gifted me is the ability to commune with other deity quite easily, quite readily, to provide service, to create things in their name without insulting her or her purpose. Over the time, some people have not really understood that, but it's within her name and honour to do it. It's not the same as walking a path dedicated to her, but it is understanding the interconnectedness of all things. So Songs of Shades honoured many forms of divinity, and they did follow a similar format of warrior, of healer, of phantom, etc. And you'll see as we go through. This is really important, this bit. I just move you out very, very slightly. There we go. The verses contained within the pages of the warrior for the aspect of the Morrigan who calls you to fight. Warriors come in all forms, much like the great queen herself. Let none tell you that you are unworthy or your battles unimportant. The strong have been forged. So as part of my path of working with the Morrigan, I feel there are very distinctive archetypes when working within her energy. Her energy overall is a shapeshifter. That's the thing, the archetype, the title, I guess, that I think most adequately, sufficiently sums her up. She's constant movement, constant changing, constant chaos. To be honest, love you, but you are. And so I think she enjoys moving herself around energetically so that you never fully understand, you never fully have a complete grasp on what's going. And if you think you do, if you think you have that amount of control, she'll go out of her way to show you just how wrong you are. Warrior is one of these archetypes, and it's an interesting archetype because for the most part, modern society in the West doesn't really understand what the warrior is or was in the traditional settings. Some may be in the armed forces and they therefore have a better idea. But warrior to me doesn't just encompass that. It has very different meaning depending on who is interacting with the archetype, because often these archetypes are a reflection of us and our experiences, and only when they become sort of an accepted collective ideology do we create a stereotype of what that is. But the Morrigan is not about stereotypes. She's not about boxes. It might be why this idea of the Morrigan is this, and this gets on my nerves so much, because the Morrigan is flux, motion, and everything is evolving all the time, including warrior. Let's have a look through. So this is about being broken down by the Morrigan, something that a lot of people use to sort of make out that she's not loving, or that she is aggressive, when it's usually very much like the things that need to be broken so that they can be reset. It's like if your bones were growing wrong in your body and you needed to break them in order to heal straight, and so that you would regain motion in your leg, for example. Warrior in Woad is one of my favourites. It's an oldie, golden oldie. That's what this book is. It's a mixture of some of the golden oldies and some new and never seen before poetry and rituals and things, all in one place. I am her and she is me, the guardian in Woad. A story screams across the void, marked in battle lines. I hear her scream, guttering the pitch-black chord of night. I am her and she is me. There is no true divide. I cross the ocean bruised and weary to speak at fireside. The lightning calls as once it did. The drums of war unfold. I am her and she is me, the warrior in Woad. So that's interesting because I just received this piece of artwork. Oh gosh, the glare. By Stone Maiden Art with lightning up the top. Technically, the piece is called Elf Lightning or something like that, I think. But in every way, it makes me think of Mocha. In every way, that is what mocha looks like to me. And I've struggled for a really long time to find a piece of artwork that really, really resonated with me when it came to mocha, because none of them hit. None of them were strong enough. None of them were defined. None of them were fierce enough for me. So it's interesting that that synchronicity means we're probably on the right path. So this is all about, and there's a ritual of the war cry here. So this is all about how I interact with the Morrigan in terms of the warrior archetype. Oh, there's Mocha. Words of Mocha. There she is. Morriganic war cry. Rest. I'm going to read rest to you guys because I think rest is important. Why is rest in the section of the warrior? On days when I feel adrift, I remember that I'm wanting to be better, and every day I hold myself to that standard is a victory forever. I know that she is watching, grinning with all a raven's smile, in so much as I am blooded and resting for a while. I always seem to rally. I just wish I didn't fall quite so hard. Believing, I guess, is seeing and knowing what I know. What goes on behind the scenes. Mother Morrigan, make it plain as day. Help me in this heart healing. Help me find another way. So rest has become a lesson of the Morrigan, particularly over the last year. And I shared a piece, I think it was on Instagram. I might have put the written piece in here as well somewhere. That basically rest is a necessity for the warrior, because a warrior who ignores rest will die and will not heal and will not live to fight another day. So rest is just as important as fighting the battle. Ooh, a little bit of crows. Red tresses of the Morrigan and victory. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. So when I have decided to share things within here, there you go. The Morrigan has never yet told me to bow down to the will of another. That was an image that was shared, and because I liked it so much, it was included. So that one has been shared on social media. And then we're moving into Phantom section. So before we move on, that sort of encapsulates a little bit about what the warrior means to me and some of the lessons that have so far come to light. And obviously some of these lessons have changed over the years about what it means. Okay. The Phantom Bive is the aspect who I most closely align with when it comes to working with the Morrigan. The Phantom Death, the Screaming Banshee. Bive. I love her so much. Okay. The verse is contained within the pages of the Phantom Queen. They call to Bive the Death Crow, she who calls for and causes the endings of all things, she who sees, knows, and guards your death, and walks beside you as you mourn. Okay. That is quite a... Oh, so this does show that we do have mythology in here. I kind of did... I kind of did say this is not really what this is about, and it's not, but there are references to, the mythology, and this essay, there are essays within is one. So there's quite a few, really. When Bive came, and when Bive came for me, I knew it was not yet my time. But I had screamed for death, and she had heard me, and with an otherworldly scythe cleaved me in two, and demanded I remember who I was. Sew it up, she told me, and with every inch of that pain, scream your utmost. Bive had given me a voice, and I remembered how much I was alive, even when it tore me to pieces. Oh, then we have embodying the washer at the ford. So if this is a blog piece, but if you went to the Confluence run by Anwen of Avalon, you will know that I have a guided ritual meditation that I do for embodying the washer at the ford. There are a number of different things that have been coming through in my path walking with the Morrigan. Most of these I share on Patreon if I'm going to share them publicly now, and some are for a future project with regards to the Morrigan. And they have been meditations of very much embodying different archetypes within ourself that mirror the archetype of the Morrigan, and meeting her in meditation. So embodying the washer at the ford was very much going into the water, which is why it was part of the water confluence, going into the river, and allowing all of the old grime, the old wounds, the old blood to sort of wash and flow and away, so that we could be reborn in that space. And I do enjoy those meditations. I do those quite a lot now. I find them to be, well, they're kind of cathartic for me, because when I start creating them, I realise that they are the pinnacle of a journey that I have been on, and then I share the meditation, and it's kind of a condensed version of the journey. So my ending might be somebody else's beginning within the regards of that meditation, and I do love that as part of the priestess path. It's really important to me to share those experiences as much as I am allowed. Some experiences are not for everyone. Some are very much for myself and my one other sister in ritual space sometimes. So it has been an interesting development, that progression of the creation of sacred channeled meditation, and how it affects me, and it kind of sums up my story. And embodying the washer has been with me for quite some time. An Odd Journey to the Underworld of Foxes and Moths is an old blog post which I've included, because it includes different aspects of walking with the Morrigan, which are about personal gnosis, and I received quite a lot of hatred about the personal gnosis, and I've seen quite a lot of negativity around it, as if all spiritual path working is not some kind of spiritual gnosis of some kind. Yeah. If it was in the books, guess who wrote the books, people? And here we have a skull, and there we have, oh look, mirroring. That's Delilah over there. Calling in Goddess Morrigan as the spectral death. There was some arguing about whether or not she was a death goddess not too long ago. And to be honest, I kind of feel that she is a goddess of death, not a death goddess. That is explained more in depth in the book. But to kind of try and divorce her from the realm of death seems an odd choice. It's just, she predicts death, she knows death, she walks through death, death is my realm, is what she said to me, because I meditated on it. This is what she said to me. I move through it, I know it, I am it. The spectral moment of knowing, understanding, that which keeps a bitter cry moaning, is the keening I keep deep in my knowing. That was a line that it took me a really long time to write down, because is the keening I keep deep in my knowing. I speak it, I breathe it, create it, and own it. The manner in which you will rattle your last. The moment in which your life is past. Is the prophecy I keep deep in my knowing. Death is my realm. I spring forth from it and return to it. Binding my legs around it and over it. Life begets death, and death life in the coupling. The universe upheld in the rhythm is the balance I keep deep in my knowing. That's a good one, right? It's a good one. And then we talk about it. We talk about it in quite some depth. So if these are things that you want to know about. There is some information in here. It's not just poetry. It's not a book of poetry. There are many different aspects in here. Some rituals, some kind of meditation-y type things, and we do, of course, have sacred poetry. Death Screams is a golden oldie about screaming and how it's important. You can tell she's my favourite. We're not playing Phantom. I was going to say we're not playing favourites with the aspects, and I was like, we're not playing Phantom of the. No, we are. Right, healer. There we go. Without healing, we cannot recover from our battles. Without healing, we cannot grow stronger or more resilient. Many scoff at the idea of healing under the Morrigan. They are fools. Healing is the only way to personal alchemy and growth. Healing is the art of the strong who refuse to give up when they're broken down by life. People making out that healing is like a woo-woo, new agey practice is really weird to me. I mean, yes, there is obviously that side of things, right? That exists. But real healing is painful. And it requires a lot of self-reflection, a lot of shadow work, a lot of being really honest to yourself, a lot of alchemy, a lot of refusing to give up and die. There's a lot of that energy in healing. It's painful. So the idea that it's woo-woo is really weird. Yeah, so that one epitomizes it quite well. This is a newer one. Working with the Morrigan is to sit on a throne of bones that you tore from all the limbs of all the people you used to be, sewn together with the death rattles from all your last gasps. You cried out in pain as you wrenched yourself from the carcass of the stagnant pools of yesteryear to become sovereign. Sometimes I'm super gothy and macabre AF. But there's just part and parcel of working with her. I know my worth. I've paid dearly for every ounce of it. Indeed. So the artwork continues throughout the book, as you may have noticed as we flick through talking about this. That was a more recent one. This is something that I think a lot of people can probably relate to, whether they work with the Morrigan or not. And I did get asked if you had to work with the Morrigan to read and purchase the book, and I was like, you can purchase the book. It's a book. You can do whatever you like with it. Well, within reason. Don't kill someone with it, you know. Morrigan, I whispered, I don't know if I can keep doing this. This too is sacred service, she replies. We endure beyond the point that they think will break. I know this is something that quite a few people have had to deal with. And this kind of doubt in yourself, this doubt that you can persist and survive and keep going and conquer any particular given moment in real difficulty, especially if something has happened and you've gone through another cycle of something that you thought you'd never have to deal with again, and it can be very disheartening and you feel like there's something deeply wrong with you. And so I know a lot of people, myself included, have been through it, and this is what the Morrigan said to me. It's sacred service. I like that image. It's a nice one. It's a pretty one. Some of them are dark and gothic, and some of them are crows forming a heart. Look, balance. The healing section is also about interactions with other people, and yeah. So I release myself from the narratives told by other people who do not have my best interests at heart, do not honor truth, or use me to fuel their own designs. This is actually a spell, right there. Light a candle and say it out loud. So I've even told you how to do the spell. There you go. Cult of Not Belonging. So that's a slightly older one, but is still really relevant to the people who feel other, and the people who feel like they don't belong, and the people who keep coming into toxic relationships, or they have to heal something within themselves which allows them to be in toxic relationships, or perhaps there's a toxicity within ourselves as well. So all of these things require healing. I kind of love this so much. Sorceress. The Morrigan is a sorceress who conjures blood and fire and sees with her other eyes into the murky depths of prophecy. Within the pages of Sorceress are words and spells of power. And we have the twist go all the way through. Prophecy of the Morrigan. Return to sender. Return to sender. That's not how it goes, but you know. I've written some pieces at power time in the year. So there is Beltane, Spring Equinox, or Winter Solstice. Was it just those? Yes, it was just those three. The Morrigan doesn't always come up in every Sabbat of Will of the year, and it would be forcing it to like create one for every single... Samhain might be later by itself, actually, because obviously Samhain is one of the most important ones. So it will be in here somewhere. But I have had different experiences as well. So Beltane and its relationship to Samhain, if you were on Patreon, then you know, has become more and more and more intrinsically linked as we have moved through. And this year in particular, with Beltane and with our lunar eclipse in Scorpio and the Pluto retrograde energies, and all of this has brought the lessons very loudly to the door that have kind of existed. So this is something that happened, one Beltane between our sister and I in ritual, where she was death consuming the parts of us that needed to die so that we could be born again at Beltane. That's honouring her at Spring Equinox and Winter Solstice. Offerings to the Morrigan. Prayer to buy for those who suffer injustice. Moving into the light half of the year. Oath breaking. Spells. Okay, right. So the importance of oaths is something that you will possibly know about if you work with a Morrigan, or if you have any interest in her, because a broken Geist, a broken oath, as in her mythology, so in life is a problem. And this is what she said to me about it. For oaths are binding, bound into the fabric of your being, into your body, and that is why when you ruthlessly and purposefully dishonour your Geist, your body fails, and that is the end of you. So she kind of explained the relationship to me when I asked. I was like, explain this to me a little bit more, and that's what I got. Priestess. Maybe I put it in here then. Samhain's in here, I know it. I may have just flicked past it, but being a priest or priestess, I know people are odd with their titles, of the Morrigan is to be a priestess of shadow. You may prefer a different term, but priestess is one that needs reclaiming in our times. It's, so you don't have to take the title for yourself to appreciate the work. Its power thrums with purpose and service, and the world needs reminding of the true grit it takes to be one. Whatever your title you take, or none, let your actions and dedication ring out for all to hear. Okay. So this is very much about acts of service in her name and what it means to walk with her. Shadow Priestess is the term that I have been using for quite a few years now in her service. It's a very complicated and would require a whole video, if not a whole video series, to explain it. But it's working with your shadow. It's sometimes, unfortunately, being the mirror that brings out shadows in other people. It's walking in the shadow realm. It's a lot of different aspects. Charge of the Morrigan. Some dedications. Shadow poker is about poking other people. Oh, it's down here. Shadow poker is about poking other people's shadows, which I just kind of mentioned, and that kind of talks about why that happens and how that happens and why it feels like that, as well as some dedications. So we have Bive and Anu and Anger of the Morrigan. Call of Morrigan. More Shadow Priestesses. I've got Molly in here. Look, there's Molly again. I mentioned Molly in the last video. People are like, you obsessed. I'm like, yes, I love Molly very dearly. I love this one. Look at this one. Oh, it's so pretty. I must learn to die so I live well. I must death scream to break the shell. I hear her calling. I know her name. She elevates me through all my pain. Morrigan. Yeah, so this is, we've got, there we go. Nevin and Mocha. I really like that image of her in the water as well. It's lovely. With the water down the base. Okay. And then we're moving into shape-shifting. The Morrigan is a shape-shifting goddess, perhaps before all else. I put perhaps right here to be on the safe side. She changes her shape, the shape of the land, the shape of politics, and forever changes all of those who work with her. Yeah, so we have shape-shifting dedication, crow-eyed women, fangs of a wolf, crow, the chant, the eel, the crow. More referencing mythology and material, so discussing it at length. And then the crow mask. And the wolf mask. And there's me at the end. Looking all beautiful. Very well taken photograph. And you have a section for notes here at the end. Okay. So that's it. That's the Crow Speak Anthology. Currently only available on starryeyesupplies.com. I am working on doing an audio version. So you can go ahead and buy the physical version right now if you would like it. Links are below. And if you would prefer to wait for an audio version, that will be on the way. That's a project underway right now. It's an ongoing journey, and my journey does deepen and evolve. Walking with the Morrigan, very much so. And I'm very fortunate to walk and work with certain individuals whom have shown me true love and honour as sisters of the Morrigan. I think there is a lot of baloney thrown out there about those claiming the Morrigan and behaving and acting in a certain way towards one another. And it's not that you can't have adversaries in this world. You can. That's the unfortunate part of it, isn't it? And you can but then you can disagree with people without it being war. And I don't know that some people haven't forgotten that multiple truths can exist within the world. And if your truth is deeply threatened by another truth, then there's something wrong with your truth, isn't there? You don't fully believe it, you're not fully dedicated to it, you don't believe in its strength if you are so desperate to silence all else that moves. And it's an interesting journey. And this book kind of sums it up so far. All right, my lovelies. Thank you very much for paying attention. I'll probably stop now because I've been waffling on for quite some time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do come get a Crow Speak Anthology and support your local starry-eyed witch. And FLOOF, who is climbing up the... Oh, I should have got that on camera. She's climbing up the chair. Hello. Do I have to get you on camera now, I've said? Because people won't know, will they? Where are you going? Come here then. You're going to be on your box. All right. Well, swoop. Are they supporting you in your dream? One paw on the floor. Hello, darling. Oh, yeah. Buy an anthology. I agree. Daisy says so. Many blessings, everybody.